say a few things about Harold W. Crawford himself. You were an acquaintance of him?
Yeah, I did, as I said, I didn't know him very well. I never went to his house and met him closely and sat down and drank beer and watched football games with him. And he did seem to me as a kind of reserved individual, kind of a little on the shy side, but I certainly didn't know him personally or know him extremely well at all. When Miller Whitaker died in 1950, make that late 1949, now who's going to be the next president? I had a big fight competition on campus, and Crawford was among them, the big five. The White Board of Trustees appointed 5 people to run the school, which was a mess. 5 people running it, a committee. And Crawford was one, Kirkland Green was one, Frank DaCosta was one, Frank Staley was one, somebody else in there. They were all administrators. And they all wanted to be president, including Crawford. And they all applied. And the Board of Trustees met in Governor Thurman's office. There's a photograph in here. The all-white Board of Trustees met with no black people present. And they would decide who would be the next president. So they went over these guys. And they weren't sure about DaCosta, but when they got to Crawford, they said, we're not sure about him because we don't know where he stands on segregation. And what the White Board of Trustees wanted was a new president, a new black president, who was going to defend segregation. And they looked at the 5, DaCosta and Green and Crawford and Staley. So they picked the dean of the law school, who hadn't even applied, Benner Turner, because he would be safe on segregation. He would be conservative enough. He wouldn't try to begin to agitate to bring white faculty and white students here. So they picked Turner to be the president, and the rest of them got pushed aside, Crawford included, so he remained the dean. He was also an important figure on the athletic council. He was always interested in athletics. I suspect he played football, and we know he was an assistant coach. And so into the 50s, until he retired, he remained active with the athletic program as well. But his opportunity to be the president never occurred.
Do you think he must have been pretty well thought of for when he passed in 1980 to have this building named for him?
Yeah, I think the people who knew him then, by the 1950s and 60s, and the man who succeeded Turner as president in 1967, Maceo Nance, they liked both Crawfords. Nance did. And so he was instrumental in getting this building at that time named after Crawford. It wasn't originally the Crawford Mechanical Industries building. It had no person's name attached to it until probably the 1970s. I don't know the exact date that it became the Harold Crawford Mechanical Industries or Mechanical Building here. And it was the 1980s when Crawford Zimmerman, the early 1980s, named after the other Crawford, T.J. Crawford and Dudley Zimmerman there. And these were popular figures who'd been on the campus, who'd gone to school here, been here, devoted many years to SC State, and were, by the time the buildings were named after them, retired.
1890, when